Yes, okay, whānau, welcome back in again here at Run It Straight. It's the prelim finals review and the preview of the GF Willie. How good is this? And welcome in everyone, Ephraim, Wills, and the bro at the back deals. Kia ora, everyone.
Kia ora, yeah. Another big weekend. We're down to it, man. We're down to the last two.
Man, some great footy being played over the weekend.
Outstanding footy.
Too bad there's only 2 games of rugby league because, man, I was waiting for Thursday night and nothing come up and, yeah, it was disappointing.
Yeah, strange. But we're down to it now. We know who's going to be at the dance and who's going to fight it out. So, yeah, looking forward to the chat.
All right, then, let's kick off the show. Hey, Ephraim, what do you got?
Kick off the show.
Got him.
We'll kick off the show with some comments, as is our new trend. We get a lot of comments all of a sudden. Must be you asking for the comments. The people are replying.
Yeah, well, it's the TikTok lives, eh, brother? Like, if you got some good questions, 100%, we'll chuck them up here and we'll talk about them. I think there's some great questions being asked in our TikTok lives that we do on a Monday morning, but we can go into depth here.
So the first one is from Clark Kent again, our friend Superman.
Brother, you're looking after him.
Awesome episode, fellas. Just a question, boys. Is there a reason why a Samoa vs Tonga match hasn't been made since the World Cup? I feel like we're wasting the opportunity to capitalise on the best rivalry in international rugby league, especially when both teams are at their peak. Playing that match in Auckland will sell out immediately. Why isn't the match scheduled once a year?
Oh, yeah, Willie, that's a great one.
Yeah, I totally agree. If the game is here in Auckland or even if it's in Sydney or it's been out Western Sydney in the past, there's no doubt it'll sell out. And they could sell it out 3 times over. But since the World Cup, last season, Tonga went to England. They went on the end-of-season tour and Samoa obviously played in the Pacific Nations. This season, Samoa are going to England in a couple of weeks' time. Tonga take their place in the Pacific Nations. So there hasn't been an opportunity for that. The only other time they could try and squeeze it in is mid-season, but the mid-season tests obviously have gone like we had to, used to have. So that's the reason why we haven't had them. Next year may be a little bit different. Next year it could be on the cards again, but I understand totally the fans' appetite for it. The rivalry, what's behind it, the quality of players and the quality of the teams. There's some natural hype around it, and the communities want to get behind it. There's some big bragging rights about it. And the last time these two met at the quarterfinals of the World Cup at Warrington, huge, outstanding to be there myself in person. And I understood how it was back here to be here in New Zealand watching it over there. So, yeah, I know the fans want it, the players want it, we as coaches want it too, but a time and place.
Yeah, good old Clark Kent coming through with the good questions, eh? And I think, like you said, William, we've spoken about this before as well on here. The calendar is full at the minute, but for even New Zealand and Samoa and Tonga, that mid-season game would make perfect sense, wouldn't it? But how do you fit that into a calendar that's already busy? I hope that 2025, say we do a Pacific Championship, I don't even know how long that's going along for, that we have them back into the competition. But again, that adds an extra game on whatever we've already got, you know what I mean? So I find it really hard to try and put it into the Pacific Championships. But if we can get the mid stuff back where Tonga play Samoa, New Zealand get that Anzac game back where they play the Aussies, I think that's the perfect time for it. I think that's where it fits in. But you try asking the NRL where they're going to fit these into their calendar. I don't think we'll get an answer anytime soon, that's for sure. But the rivalry is awesome. And, you know, we still have a real good rivalry with Tonga. So, and Samoa too, you know, we have a lot of boys that have played for Kiwis, both Tongan and Samoan players. So the rivalry for all 3 nations is big, but that one, I like that one, Willie.
Yeah, they should switch it up. Pacific champs, get rid of Australia. They can go play England, man.
Yeah, send them over there.
Kiwis, Samoa, Tonga, that's what the people actually want.
That actually sounds good.
Ephraim has spoken.
We've come up with something good for once. I like it.
Next comment is from Good Boy Daz 0494. Question for Blair.
Yo.
Is it true you tried to pay some of the Tiger players to do some extras with you? Tiger fans always throwing dirt on you. You were one of my favourite Storm players playing on the right edge with Kronk.
Yeah, thank you, my bro. Appreciate the question. No, I didn't pay anyone. My time down there was challenging. And if I look back on my career at the Tigers, you know, personally, a lot of growth as in a person, you know what I mean? And as a footballer as well, as we went through some tough times down there, and I don't think too much have changed. A lot of conversation in the background, the noise is still all there, and that's been there for a long time. I went down there on the back of some of these key players playing in the 05 Grand Final. I went down there 2012. So these guys were still talking about the 05 Grand Final in 2012, and I'm just being perfectly honest, that was long gone. The game of rugby league changes and moves really quick. If you live in the past too long, that's where you get stuck in the past. And I didn't pay anyone to train with me. I tried to create a group of boys, and I'll be real specific. They were Polynesian and Māori boys that wanted to work hard, that wanted to try and change, I guess, the way that we trained, where it was, you know, and if you look at some of these big games that have been played, if you look at all the big boys from the middle of the park, what nationality are they? You know what I mean? So I knew that if I could get a group of young boys, I think Suasa Sue was there, Jesse Sue, I think Marty Tapau was there, Braydon Thompson, Eddie Pettybourne. There was a few of us in that space that thought that we really wanted to grow in our football and challenge each other, and we didn't think we were getting that as much consistently at the club at that time. So I try to get a group of boys together, and like I've always done through my career, you migrate to the guys that want to work hard and you want to put the work in for those guys, because then when you get out on the field, that's where your trust lies. So you put the work in there. I didn't pay anyone to work. Everyone decides to come in there because they can see that there is growth in what we're trying to do, to be the better player, to go out there and perform well. Yes, it may have not looked like we did the right... We went out there and won games, but I knew personally that I was learning a lot about myself, but also the players around me and who wanted to work hard and who didn't.
Next one up, the man of the hour says, what do you guys think of the Penrith Panthers' latest documentary, Undisputed? They just made another million more fans from that, especially turning the haters around. I'm not sure about that. Now it's Pan 4's next year, The Last Ride. Have you guys seen the documentary?
No,
yes.
I haven't watched the documentary. I'm not saying I'm not a fan of the Penrith Panthers. I support our Kiwi boys. I support, my supporters with Fisher Harris because he's from where I'm from. I actually haven't sat down and watched that stuff, but obviously it must be pretty good.
Yeah, I saw a clip and sort of got me hooked on. So I watched the first episode, which obviously hooks you into the second and the third, and I thought it was a well-constructed production from the Panthers. It was a great story going behind the scenes and telling their story of how they got there and some of their motivation and their reasons for doing as well as they did, and having a look at some of the backstory to some of the characters. What we see on the Sunday, you get to know some of the individuals. You get to see what Nathan Cleary goes through day to day, and Stephen Crichton, what he's really like off the field, and then Ivan Cleary and his staff. So I understand what he's saying, getting a million more fans and getting the haters. And I think what that's about is a lot of people would like to see someone else win the grand final, would like to see someone different. They've won 3 in a row and they would just want to see someone lift the trophy. But when you watch that and you become invested in the storylines and you see a bit more deeper and more clearly what their story is about, and you become attached to the person rather than just the player, it wouldn't be too bad if they win 4. I get that. So, yeah, I really like the production from them. I think it's, as a rugby league promotion, I think it's an outstanding piece. And I think the fans would do well, and the game would do well to present more of that to the fans and open some more doors to them.
Well, that's where the game's kind of heading to, Willie, is that the fans want to know the people more so than the club and what they do as a club, but the personalities within inside the group. Say, Jerome Luai, we know what he's like. Brian Tall, we see a little bit about those guys, but we don't really see anyone else. Your Fisher Harrisons, do you see much about him on social? I think he's now doing their coffee ad, I think, with Bloke in the Bar. And that's must be the most I've seen him actually do stuff in social media, you know what I mean? So these things that fans can attach to, the players, the individuals, I think that's where you get the growth in the numbers and the supporters. And I think, when you talk about them going for the 4-peat, I think you could say the similar thing with Melbourne Storm when they were going through their good times. Everyone's like, can we just see someone else win the grand final? But deep down that both teams put in so much work to put themselves in these positions. That's the hard work that they put in. That's the work that we don't see from behind the scenes. So being able to see it and the growth and where they've gone to is cool for the fans. And, I put the Melbourne Storm right up in the same category, is that they've been so good for so long that sometimes people just want to see someone else win. And I don't think it's the hate. I just think some people just want to see another team win, or the fans want their team to win. So, this weekend, it's going to be the Storm wanting to beat the Penrith Panthers fans. And so back and forwards for, obviously, the Panthers fans is they want them to go for the four-peat, and the Storm are going to try and stop them.
Yeah, and I've said it before. I'm someone who's very protective of the inner sanctum, and what goes on behind the closed doors, I think sometimes should stay there. But I understand also, as a fan, and what the fans want is to get to know this sort of stuff. They want to go behind the closed doors. They want to get to know, and the players nowadays are all about their branding individually, and it gives them an opportunity to sell some of that to them. But yeah, great stuff. Great, it was an awesome piece from the Panthers. Well done.
Oh, mate.
Do some good stuff on and off the field.
I'll have to be watching that when I go home today because I actually haven't seen it yet. But up the Panthers, the Pan Fours, if you will. And last comment is Joe Natal. All the talk of new teams added to NRL. Thoughts on a second team for either NZ or Melbourne? Obviously, we already talked about this previously earlier in the season, but a Melbourne team as a second Melbourne team, how would you guys feel about that?
Well, I'd never heard too much talk about a Melbourne team coming in. I just don't know how successful it could be with two teams down there. I think it's AFL dominated, and I still don't think the Storm have pushed through their gap yet. They've been so successful over the 21 years that Craig Bellamy has been down there, but I still feel like they don't get the recognition of what they do. Yes, in the rugby league world, they do, but in Melbourne, I don't even think there's any rugby league on the TVs till similar timings to what we have over here, and you talk to some of those boys down there, and they don't even watch that much rugby league, although Craig Bellamy feeds them everything in rugby league that they can get. They don't need to, but I just think the AFL game's huge. You would have seen the grand final over the weekend, the Brisbane Lions and the Swans. Man, that was massive. I think, 900,000 people at a grand final. Like, imagine running out on the field like that. So I think the next step, obviously, the Bears are coming back in. I think they're mentioning, obviously, PNG and then, obviously, the Kiwi team. I think that's how it kind of goes. If not the Kiwi team for PNG would be nice for us. Gives our kids more opportunities to stay home in New Zealand. That'll be great. But I just don't think Melbourne will be able to do it. But I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying that I like WA, I like PNG and New Zealand.
Yeah. Yeah, I like New Zealand, the South Island bid. I think there's some strong validity for putting a franchise down there. There's a load of Kiwi kids every single year going across, and if we can keep some of those players here, keep some of that talent here on our shores and help a franchise grow, as well as bringing in some of the Aussies and maybe some English over. It helps enhance some of the coaching too, especially down the South Island. St. Thomas
for us.
St. Thomas has won the schools again, South Island school. So it's strengthening. The game is strengthening, and there is an appetite when the Warriors go down there or there's a game, they fill out crowds. So there is a need, I think, at some stage to get a second franchise, and I think that'll happen. Melbourne, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure about Melbourne. Brisbane, having two teams, I wasn't sure about the Dolphins, but they've come in. They've pretty much been a success. They've still got some growth to do, and stadium-wise and training facilities, but they're still on the ground and they're still growing. And they've been worth the expansion coming in. I'll say that for them.
Yeah.
But Brisbane is a heartland for rugby league. Brisbane has the numbers. It has the fans. There's always been fans in Brisbane who haven't been Broncos fans, and they've been wanting a team. So they've automatically jumped over to the Dolphins. I don't know if I can say that about Melbourne.
No.
I think all the Melbourne fans who are rugby league people are Storm fans. I'm not sure if they want another team. You need to go out and survey and ask those people themselves. But yeah, that threw me as a bit of a shock when people were talking about another team in Melbourne.
Definitely Storm fans, 100%.
Yep.
But when it comes to rugby league, I don't know if they're anything else but Melbourne Storm fans, because they are diehard. What do they get? 30,000, I think, sold out their stadium. Like, they are there because they support the Storm and the Storm only, and they've always been like that from day one. So, and I think it's always been because it's been an AFL-dominated city, is that they wanted to try and bring this connection of just these fans and the audience coming in just to support the Storm, and they've built up a base. It's taken them so long. You know, this is the first time they've ever sold out a stadium, especially Amy Park, and I don't know, but I might be wrong, but they're getting the fans there now. Like, they are doing something, they are building something. But when you think about another team, I don't know if there's any other fans down there that may support someone else but the Warriors. But even then, that's their second team. You know what I mean? It's Melbourne Storm, and you got a lot of Kiwis in Melbourne. Yeah. They may go, oh, it's the Warriors today, or, you know, it's the Storm this time. But when they're playing the Warriors, we sit on the fence. So, yeah, I don't know if that works down there, but it's a good chat.
Yeah, I saw a couple of other people saying about a Melbourne team this week as well, kind of randomly. It wasn't really in any news, but it seemed like their main point for wanting another Melbourne team was just so that there's a derby, sort of a Melbourne versus Melbourne team. I guess Melbourne, among all the other teams, don't really, I guess, and the Warriors don't really have like rivals per se, especially same city like the Sydney teams, or like the Dolphins and Broncos, or even the rest of the teams up north. So I don't know, maybe that's why the Melbourne people just want some kind of extra grit in that game. But we'll move on to the news for the week, and we'll start off with one of the two big headlines. Kalyn Ponga withdrew himself from the Kangaroos selection. Seems like he might have walked it back a little bit now, or they've tried to make amends, but obviously everybody was blowing up about it. Everybody was angry, screaming at Kalyn Ponga, screaming at the Knights. What's your guys' take on this situation and what's happened so far?
Willie's got some great thoughts on this. Some great thoughts. He tried to chuck that straight to me, but let's give it to the big dog.
Yeah, I could understand what Kalyn was going through in his mind. I understood, and I understand what a player thinks when they go through this and they make this decision for whatever reason. And some players pull out of internationals and end-of-season games for various reasons. One, it's the only time of the year that players can get married. So they've got weddings. Some time where they're having babies now.
Yeah.
They're having babies, and you can't miss that. There's other things that go on. There's injuries. The toll of the season takes its toll physically and mentally. And we don't see the mental side. We can't see those injuries in people. We've got to have an understanding. What got on my goat was people jumping on his back, and people were saying that it was poor on his behalf to make a decision, and how could he turn down the Aussie jersey? How could he turn away from playing an international game? Players have been doing it for a while now. But nobody said anything before. And my feeling is they haven't said anything before because it wasn't Australia, because it wasn't a big team. As soon as it became one of the big teams, people are throwing their arms up and saying, how can it be? How can it be? But nobody said anything when it was Josh Schuster who pulled out of a World Cup for Samoa. Nobody said a thing. Nobody said anything last year when he pulled out again out of Samoa to try and focus on playing for training and playing for Manly. When he did that, people were saying, hey, good on him.
Yeah.
Well done, Josh. You know, you're focusing on your future. Nothing about, hey, you got to play for Samoa. That's disgraceful. You should put on the Samoa jersey.
Well, those are the rules.
You should put your international team first. Exactly what they're saying about Kalyn last week. They didn't say that. That's what got on my goat. When it was Samoa, hey, Samoa, don't worry about Samoa. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter when they pull out of Tonga. It doesn't matter for the lower teams. It's only when we've got to keep standards across the board. Now, if you're going to enforce this rule that has been highlighted this week, that is in contracts and players have to play if they're fit and well and able to, then you've got to do it for every other country. Every player that's selected to play for every country now, you've got to enforce this. You know, because I know for a fact that there's pressure from some clubs on some players for the lower countries to not perform for their countries, to not to play out. Hey, I think you need a good preseason. I don't think it's in your interest for my team and for your NRL career next year to go away on this trip. And it hurts. We're talking about promoting and the international game being important. Well, then everybody in the game has got to buy it. I understand coaches are under the pump. I understand coaches. But if we care about the game as a whole, the game has got to come first. And people have got to put pressure on that too. Not just Kalyn Ponga. And it's the pressure that players come under from other sources, managers, CEOs, coaches, and players that pull out of the smaller countries that really need them. And pressure's got to come on them too. That's what got on my gut last week about it all. I have no problems with Kalyn making his decision. That's an individual thing. Was he misinformed about the rules? Yeah, it comes out a little bit. But don't jump on his back when you haven't jumped on anyone else's.
Where's the game? Has the game let him down? Let the players down, Willie? Because I didn't know that was a rule.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's been happening for a long time. That is, and not only for Samoa and Tonga, it's New Zealand as well. But we just don't. We move on.
Yep.
You know what I mean? We move on. We find the next player that's available. Like we end up going down to maybe our fifth string, but we find people eventually. You know what I mean? That want to play for your country, and you don't have no thought in your mind that if someone says, "Bro, I've got a wedding," or I want to rest because mentally I'm drained. I've had a long season.
Yep.
We're like, that's fine, brother. Like, we'll get someone that's available and is willing to play. Like, you take your time, you rest. And I feel like sometimes this is an Aussie thing. This is an Aussie thing. It's because it's such a big deal for them. They're saying on the back of what Kalyn said that they think the Aussie jersey comes first before anything else. It's like, how much games has he played in the last 2 years? He was a head knock away from finishing his career. He's gone over to Canada. He's got some advice. He's come back. Even this year, he had a Liz Frank. He hasn't played much football in the last couple of years, and he's this marquee signing, and he most probably is the number one player at the Newcastle Knights that does a lot of things for that club.
Yeah.
Maybe because it's this high-profile Kalyn Ponga that they think about it as more of a selfish thing for them rather than the player. They haven't thought about what the player needs.
Yep.
So we talk, and now I feel like it's highlighted the game, is our season too long? Is there too much football in there? Because people are pulling out because they're saying they want to focus on their club, which is where they're getting paid from. Which, again, I don't have any concern on Kalyn wanting to sit out because he wants to focus on getting a good preseason and getting prepared for his club. I don't have any concerns there. Same thing with me is some of these former players that have come out are carrying on, and I'm thinking, hold on a minute, like can you not just the kid can't have an opinion himself? Like, if he feels like he can't give him his all because of how taxing the season has been, how much effort he's put in, why do we have to blow up all about, or why do they have to blow up about it and say, mate, you're disrespecting the jersey, the culture that's come in before, the people that have worn the jersey? We've never ever said anything like that to any of the players, and you suppose it must be the same as Samoa and Tonga. Never ever said, bro, you're disrespecting the jersey because you saying you want to focus on your club career.
Yep.
Like, it's just, the media made it a big deal over there because it's the Aussie team. Maybe he could have done things a little bit different. Maybe he could have reached out to Mal Meninga a little bit earlier, and just had that phone call with Mal and said, hey, Mal, rather than the statement come out. Maybe if he had his time again, he may have gone around it a different way. But once you make a decision, you make your bed, you lie in it. Yep. And it may mean that in the future they don't pick him for Australia. Well, then that's his call. That's on Kalyn Ponga, not on anyone else.
No. So
he may have given up his Aussie jersey because he wanted to focus on his football career. He wants to win a grand final. He wants to take the Knights on that journey to there. He wants to be the best player he can be, the best captain for the Knights. But they're making this big deal about someone that's going, oh, mate, I'm just going to focus on the club and want to do the right thing by them. And I just think move on.
Yeah.
Move on. There was bigger games to be played. The semis over the weekend, the grand finals coming up. Now they've got it out of the way. It's like, that was the news all last week. They weren't even talking about the games till like Thursday night. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that's all they spoke about.
Yep.
Just move on, man. Let the kid just chill.
If we move on to the more speculative side of this, obviously...
Ooh, hold on a minute.
Well, I'll get to that. They're speaking about handing him a ban for next season, maybe a lifetime origin ban as well, these kinds of things. Obviously, I'd assume you guys are saying that's definitely not warranted. What do you think should happen if something does happen with the punishments?
For what?
From what I'm saying, because it's happened before and there's been
nothing,
no punishment before, that's the precedence. Surely there's no punishment for Kalyn then. After it's already been done, you can't go back on it. And players have already pulled out of internationals before. And he's just doing what others have done with no repercussions. So I can't see how they can punish him whilst it's in the fine print. It's been in the fine print for a long time. So, yeah, I think it'd be really unfair if they were to come out and hit him with anything.
Yeah, I just don't see how that changes anything anyway. You know what I mean? Well, all it does is it makes sure that next time someone's in that situation that they go around the right processes first before they pull out, you know? He could have faked an injury and got the doctor to say, or someone to say that he's got a short shoulder or something and got out of it. But he was open and honest about it, you know what I mean? And I don't see how, whatever they're saying, even if it's 2 weeks, like Nelson's going to get 4 weeks for doing something on the field, and Kalyn's gone, I want to focus on my football and rest up and get ready for a thing. Like, you can't give someone time on the sidelines for being honest and open about how he feels. What are we punishing here? So I just think, they're silly. Like Willie said, it's been there forever. Nothing's happened to anyone else, nothing. But because it's the Australian Rugby League or it's the Australian team and the media have hyped it up and some of the former players have come out and said it's disrespectful, it's like now it's become a big deal. It's like, what are you punishing for?
Even more speculative than that. Obviously.
We know where you're going, mate. Just spit it out. Spit it out.
Ponga, obviously born in New Zealand.
Oh, here we go. There it was.
Could this be the start of the road to him coming back playing for the Kiwis at some point?
Hey, I'll tell you what, bro. When I watch Kalyn Ponga and when you say Kalyn Ponga, I see him as a Kiwi. I have always seen him as a Kiwi. Same as Dane Gagai. You know what I mean? I see Dane Gagai as a Māori player. I see him as a Māori player, and the Māori player, I linked them to being Kiwis. Dylan Walker, you know what I mean? And when you know who they are as people, then I feel like I've known Kalyn Ponga to be a Kiwi, more so than an Australian. Yes, he's played for Queensland, but there's a lot of Pacific or Māori players playing in that game now, New South Wales and Queensland. So I've always associated Kalyn Ponga to being a Kiwi, and I think if there's an opportunity, mate, hello, Kalyn, haere mai, brother, haere mai, welcome home, cuzzy, welcome home. So I think obviously nothing's going to happen this year. He's come out and said in international stuff, he's resting. I'm going to focus on there. But hey, 2025 comes around, and if that's where he wants to go, and he puts his best foot forward every week, which I know he will, then hey, you're open for selection like every other Kiwi player is. Yes, there's going to be some debate. Willie. He played in the World Nines in War and Aussie jersey. I wouldn't say that's the pinnacle, the Nines jersey. But it's still an Aussie jersey. Does that count as playing for Australia? I know Dylan Walker was in a similar situation. And I know in the last couple of years, I think Madge tried to get him to play for New Zealand. They stopped him because he played in 2016. So years ago. But he's also played in there. So there was too much in the international space about trying to get him over. So it just becomes a too hard basket. But I'll tell you what, if there was an opportunity to get him to play for New Zealand in the coming years, there's no doubt that they would be looking at having someone like him play for sure. He's a gun. Share my Māori.
Yeah, just not on that. I'm going to go back a little bit to what those older blokes are saying about Kalyn, and I understand.
Get into them, Willie.
I understand what some of them are saying, that a lot of the players, and myself included, would never ever say no to playing internationals. The opportunity to represent your country, and I was fortunate to do it for 2 countries, I never ever said no. I would never have done it. But I understand why players would do it today. I understand everything they go through. Times have changed. I understand if a player feels like they're not up to it or they're not mentally or physically ready. Why they wouldn't. But some of the old guys that are saying that they never turn the jersey down, I understand that too. I totally get that.
Well, we're different. Like, I'm the same, Willie. Like, unless my leg's broken off the bone or I can't actually move, there's no way I say no to a New Zealand jersey. There's no way I say no to a New Zealand jersey. But each to their own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Each to their own. But in my situation, unless, like I said, I'm broken down and I can't move, I will do everything possible to make sure that I am available for that game for selection, because that is, for us, the pinnacle. That is, for us, the pinnacle. We don't play an Origin. We don't play anything else. Besides trying to get to a grand final and winning one, there's no higher honour than representing your country at that highest level than that. So unless we're broken in half and we can't move, then every day of the week you put your name down because you know that's where you want to be. It's the pinnacle for me. You don't play... Test matches don't come around every day of the week, of the week for us, and we speak about how much we need more international games for our countries. So there's no way we would have ever said no. But I'm not saying Kalyn's in the wrong here. It's each to their own. Like, this is just us. This is how we feel. This is how I feel. So, yeah, I get it from all those former players, and I get it. But it's individual. It's the person. It's not you. You know, like, you don't know how he's feeling. You don't know what he's going through. So keep quiet. Straight up.
Next piece of news, Kaeo Weeks re-signed at the Raiders till the end of 2027 off the back of, obviously, a mean season, split between 1 and 7, won the NRL Coaches Award for the Raiders, and now they're going to have him as part of their core going forwards. Are you guys happy with that signing?
Yeah, well, they started the year in the halves on the back of Fogarty and him being injured, and you hear Ricky Stewart talk about it all the time that they have to develop within, because not too many players or marquee players want to go to Canberra for whatever reason, and I think this year showed that as well. They brought him and Ethan Strange in, like, they both have bright careers. Obviously, keep working hard. And I thought he was a standout this year when he played in the halves and jumped into fullback. Like, his speed, a couple of his tries. I think there was a try against the Warriors that he might have run around chance at some stage there. So there is football quality about him, yeah, and it's a reward for his efforts this year. And there's so much more growth, but it's a massive congrats for what he's done so far.
Huge. He came from Manly, didn't he? Across to what a jump. What a great acquisition he was for the Raiders, and he burst onto the scene, as you said, in the halves, and dangerous at fullback. Showed some moments where he really opened up, and he's quick. And as Blairy's alluding to, this is a real development phase for Ricky Stewart and the team that he's trying to build for the future. And himself, Ethan Strange, Matt Tomoko, those young guys, Ata Mariota, they're going to be the future of the team. So what he's doing, especially by giving these young fellas some longer-term contracts, he's going to build the team around them. So he's going to be really important for them going forward.
From a debacle to a positive, back to a debacle, the Ronald Volkman contract fiasco, as everyone keeps calling it. Obviously, last season, the Dragons signed him on a 1-year deal. Came over to do a medical test for the Dragons. He failed the medical due to a shoulder injury that was going to require surgery, which I think was going to be season-ending surgery. The Dragons were like, oh, hold on, you can't do this to the Warriors. But he'd already signed the contract, so the Dragons just went, oh, yeah, whatever, man, and just basically just palmed him off. And he was left without anyone to pay his medical bills, his insurance, stuff like that. So he couldn't get the surgery done. And now the NRL has finally stepped in. I think the Warriors, did end up paying that. They helped him out. They paid for his surgery and all that stuff. I think they fulfilled the contract as well, possibly. And now the Dragons have been fined $40,000 by the
suspended,
NRL.
Though, eh?
Suspended, yes.
Yeah, which means nothing. Bro. And to be honest, you say it was a debacle. It was bad. It was badly handled. Like, the poor bloke, it's been, nearly a year, and finally it's just been sorted out. Like, man, he's had no money, no income. He's had to go, where you put your trust in the club that this is where I'm going. I'm glad that the Warriors have helped him out to get his operation done and sorted that part out. I think they should have anyway. But then you go over to a club that where you go, that's where your career is going to be, and that's where you're going to start your new job. And all of a sudden they just cut you, and it's just like, hold on a minute, like you these are like when you sign a player, you have these conversations. You know, I mean, no one goes into a club blind. They should know what every player is coming with. You know what I mean? Or if not, when you sign a player or when you're talking to a player, you do a medical test. Like, simple. You don't just rock up and just think, oh, I'm going to sign him because he's good to go. It's like, don't you just do a medical test before every player gets to your club? And then you decide whether you're going to sign it on the outcomes. So you're going, hey, we're thinking of getting Ronald Volkman. Hey, fly him over, get him a medical test, sort it all out first. If he passes, cool, contract sign. If he doesn't, have a conversation with him, then, hey, we can't sign you. You're going to have to stay at the Warriors. Yep. You know what I mean? So I just think it was poorly handled. I thought, you know, although the RLPA has helped, I just don't think they've done enough to help him. You know, maybe they did in the background. I don't know the details. But when someone can't afford to pay the bills as a medical staff, again, luckily the Warriors helped out. But the mental stress that would have put on the player, like it's hard enough when you finish playing rugby league. You know what I mean? Going on some really good money to nothing. He wouldn't have been on much money at all going over there. He would have been going over there for an opportunity to prove himself that he is good enough. And then all of a sudden you've got no income. You're looking for family and support to be around. I don't know if he wouldn't even been able to get a job. You know what I mean? So I just think it was poorly handled, and it shouldn't take this long to come with an outcome. And 40 grand suspended, come on. Like, coaches get 40 grand suspended for talking in the media and saying something about a ref. No one pays that. It's just a warning for next time. They're not going to do it next time. They're going to do their due diligence. So this is a lesson for them.
Yeah.
So I just thought, not like, 12 months on, and we've only got an answer, and Ronald's only got an answer now. It's like, come on, man. Like, the poor kid's gone through some pain, enough torture as it is. Surely they could have sorted something out for him. And hopefully they may have. We're only reading between the lines here. We're only seeing what's come out in the media. Things may have happened in the background, but I just think, 12 months on, and there's only a 40 grand suspension. Surely there's something else to this.
Well done to the Warriors. Congratulations. It's admirable of them to have taken care of his medical bills. Because as Blairy is saying, that would have been such a stressful time. And as far as I'm aware, I think when he did his exit medical, he was fine from the Warriors. And St. George apparently found something a little while after, and it was tough as well on Ronnie because he started pre-season with the Warriors, and his move to the Dragons wasn't until midway through, and then boom, you're done. Like, he's a great young fella. He was with us with Samoa last year, and it was awesome to work with him for a couple of weeks. I felt really bad for him that he was going through that, through his mental health and what he was going to go through. He went on the off chance on a year's contract because Chanel came back and saw possibly an opportunity to progress a first grade career. But obviously this has happened, and I just hope that his mental state is okay, and that through all this, he's able to come out the other end and pick up something. I read some things the other day that there may be some clubs in discussion with him, and I hope he picks something up. And it'll be very low level because there's still an element of risk in taking Ronnie, but I hope he's able to take that risk, show them what he's got, and come back bigger and better and make something out of it. That'd be a great story if he's able to turn this around. But yeah, as you said, it's a debacle. It is a debacle. That was an ugly slide on the game.
Bloody debacles everywhere. Next bit of news, Braydon Trindall has said that he's going to test the market come the November 1 date, cut-off date, when he becomes a free agent. His current salary, $300,000.
Not bad.
A lot of speculation on what he might be earning, including one obviously big name. Andrew Johns, I saw, said he thinks he's worth $900K, which, as we know, $1 million man Nico Hines is their other half. Don't know how the Sharks are going to be able to afford $2 million on two players, but where do you guys think, or how much do you guys think he's worth, and where will he end up if he does test the free market?
Joey Johns, man, there's no bigger person in the game that's played the game than him. And when he's a half and he's throwing around those figures, Trindall will be going, thank you very much. You have just done me some favors. And so is his agent. But I definitely think he had to prove himself this season with the Sharks. He had a few off-field incidents, and he's come back, and I thought every time he's played in the Sharks jersey, he's done a really good job. And highlighted more so in the final series, I think. Although the last game of theirs, they were outplayed by our Panthers team, who are just class all over the field. He's had to run a lot of that team under the pressure that Nico Hines has been under. So I think he's really showed his quality as a 7 and the things that he can do. He can lead a team around. He does have a really good kicking game. He can organise players and get them into positions. 900, I'm not a half, but that's a lot of good money. Maybe if he's on 300 now, you could maybe say 600, but it's all more so what a club wants to pay. I think Newcastle Knights would be looking for a 7 to get him around the park. There is not too many other 7s that are going to the market, or your most experienced 7s that are running around. There isn't too many, but I know that someone like the Newcastle Knights, who we've spoken about through their spine and all their movements, that they could be looking for a 7 to help Kalyn Ponga out. So I think great for him going on the market. I think he's been playing some quality football, and I think if you put him on the market, he's gonna demand the dollars, and that's why you put yourself on the market. It's just come at the right time for himself. He's played some great footy, so the opportunity now is for another club to throw some cash at him.
Yeah, whether it's Andrew Johns, Cameron Smith, Mal Meninga, 2 immortals or an immortal in waiting that are throwing figures around, ultimately your value is what you sign for. And it depends what clubs are out there and what they're willing to give them at the end of the day. Interesting that Darren Lockyer has come out this week and said the Broncos, because of their signing Reece Walsh and Payne Haas, they've still got to have discussions with Katoni Staggs and Selwyn Cobbo, that there's not going to be a lot of room on their salary cap to bring in a half, so they're going to look to develop someone underneath, which I don't think is a bad thing when you look at Penrith, what they've done with Nathan Cleary and Jerome Luai coming through. Then you've got to look, as Blairy saying that, all right, what opportunities are there out there? Yeah, Knights looking for a halfback, possibly. What's going to happen at St George with Ben Hunt?
Yeah.
Is he going to go to the Gold Coast, as the rumours are?
Yeah.
Will they be looking for a halfback? There may be opportunities. There may be opportunities for him when he tests the market to pick up something close to what Joey's saying. 600-700 is probably more likely the value I'd put him at this moment in time. He's had a great season.
100.
Going back to the All-Star game. Outstanding.
That's mean.
In the absence of Nico Hines, he's really stepped up. But as you said, it'd be very, very difficult for the Sharks to keep them both and manage the cap and put a side around them.
Well, you got Adam rolling in as well. So that's why Royce Hunt had to leave as well, Like, people move because of the salary cap, and you're not going to be able to keep everyone. But you put yourself on the market, you're open for bidding. And it's the highest bid normally, how it works. And like you said, I think, that 600 mark, 700, that's what we think. But it's more so the clubs that want to pay him that money now. So, he's good on him. Like, I think, you play footy at the right time of the year and you play some quality football and you're consistent, your value does go up.
Especially considering his, as you said, his off-field issues that he had. I heard that after that happened, he
gave up a lot of
cleaned
things.
up his whole act off the field, and then obviously since then has been...
Well, bro, sometimes it takes a little bit of a kick up the bum for people to realise that, hey, I've got to give up make some sacrifices. Hey, that's what it's rugby league, and you can get caught up in that outside noise. You can get caught up with all your mates outside of rugby league. And Sydney's a little bit crazy. So I think once you figure that out on who you are and what you need to give up, you've put yourself back into the rugby league, you clean your outside noise up, your football normally takes a big turn in what you do and what you can create. So, outside, sort that out first, get your footy on right, and then this is what you get as a reward.
And then the last bit of news, back to another debacle. It's a week
no,
of
this
all
never
debacles. Obviously, Kevin Walters sacked by the Broncos or stepping down, whichever, depending on where you look, they phrase it differently. Went from almost winning a grand final, only 20 minutes away, to 12th spot with the Broncos. I guess they had that scathing season review that there's been reports out of where he went off at his own staff and stuff like that. And then the board members, I guess, they just told him he's free to go. Broncos now looking at Michael Maguire, apparently as their favourite to replace him. They've had an emergency meeting with, well, some of the players, I guess. Not all of them are in Brisbane at the moment. But, yeah, this is a bit of a horror show for the Broncos after a nightmare season in general, eh?
But they're a high-profile club. They've always been a high-profile club. They've always been able to attract a lot of the best players. A lot of the best kids live in Queensland. So when it comes to recruitment, because of the identity of the club, a lot of kids want to put themselves in that space. Yes, now the Titans are there, the Dolphins, North Queensland is a fair way out. They are the big brothers. They are the big brothers in Queensland. They are the most dominant team. When it comes to Kevy, passionate, loves the Broncos. He's done so much for the game over there. Obviously, if you've got a review at the end of the year, like everyone does, and it's quite appealing that there is some problems and issues maybe with the coaching staff, then the board has made a decision that they're not going to get any better moving forward. So I think it's unfortunate. I think where the players let him down, or even saying the coaches maybe, Titans game, Dolphins game, Storm game, their last 3 games, hidings. And I think then they were a chance of playing for the 8. And maybe that may have sugar-coated the problems that they had at the club, or got them through and got Kevy a little bit of extra time. But I think those 3 games were the evidence of a club that was struggling in performances and confidence and maybe playing for the coach. And yes, they are high-profile players. Yes, they're all over social media. But at the end of the day, they understand what there's a job. Maybe they let Kevy down, the players, but the club doesn't wait, and the game of rugby league doesn't allow you to settle into the seat, especially when you're a high-profile club like the Brisbane Broncos, and they've had to act real quickly. And I think the time, if they've made that decision now, which they have, the time is now to bring in a new coach and try and kick them into gear and see what they can do. Michael Maguire, man, he will do some damage in there for the good reasons, and that he is a tough coach. He's got a great record. Kenny, if I'm thinking about it, I'm just thinking about the big picture. Pre-season, 27 weeks, consistent grind. Like, this guy, I know he's learned a lot of lessons. He is a front foot coach. He will tell you how it is. He will take you to those dark places. He will train the hell out of the players. And I'd love to see the reaction. If he ends up getting the role, love to see the reaction of some of these players. They may have not been to those dark places before. They may have got a little bit of an easier preseason or easier ride into first grade. If Michael Maguire was to get the coaching role, there is no easy way when it comes to his coaching. And you can ask any of the South players, you can ask any of the Tigers players, but if there's one coach that I think right now who's got the experience and the runs on the board that can get a job done up there and help this club get to being successful again, I think he could play a big part in that. Does New South Wales Rugby League allow it? Because I don't see how you can coach an Origin team with a lot of their players and coach, if you were to take the Brisbane job, a coach against some of your own players that you're playing, injuries, do you allow them to play? Do you not? 27 weeks of, grinding football. I think he may have to make a decision. And I think that's where the big decision will be for Michael Maguire, whether he's going to give up New South Wales Origin job, which is the pinnacle for any Australian coach. The pinnacle is the Origin coach, and he done an outstanding job, and you can see how close he brought that group together and the belief that he grew in them. He's done the same job at New Zealand Rugby League with the Kiwis. He can get them ready for campaigns, so he's going to have to make a decision whether it's going to be the Origin or the Brisbane Broncos, I think, and that's going to be the hardest decision. I think he can do both. But I don't think it'll sit comfortable with New South Wales Rugby League?
It's tough as a coach, me being as a coach, to see other coaches, even today, lose their job. You're seeing a man lose his job, and lose something that they're obviously passionate about and they invest a lot of time and effort into. But the Broncos board on this occasion, they have to make a decision that the capitulation this season from being in the grand final to where they were this year, was that going to stop? Did they see that Kevy was going to be able to stop that slide and turn it around, or was that going to continue? And obviously they felt like it wasn't going to get any better, so they've had to make a decision, and that's what happens in coaching. It's a results-based business, and as Blairy said, those last three results, especially the Dolphins one, which was seen as the battle for the 8 at the time, and they were well and truly spanked by the Dolphins in a really tight, tense situation in Brisbane. Whilst it wasn't their home game, they were in familiar surroundings, and that was a real test that they didn't pass. I take it back to, and I've said it before, the Warriors game.
Yeah, the resting.
Rested players from Origin against a Warriors side that was low on confidence, that was full of injuries, and had he decided to play the Carrigans and the Haas's against them, they could have possibly picked up that win, which would have changed and taken that pressure off that Dolphins game. But he decided not to, and you got to fall on your sword sometimes by those. And you look at the course of the season; they had Payne Haas out for long periods. Reynolds was out for even longer for the course of the season, which put a lot of pressure on their spine, and that took away the look that they had from that run from making the grand final the year before. But ultimately, I come back to it: it's results. It's results driven. There's a lot of pressure on the Broncos from within Brisbane. There's 4 teams in Queensland, but they're Queensland's team. There's Brisbane Broncos fans all over Queensland, and that's how big they are. So there's a lot of pressure when you sit in that seat to come up and please all those fans and all the supporters. What they've got to do now, the Broncos, they've got to act quickly. Whether it's Michael Maguire or Josh Hannay or anybody else that's been rumoured to be in contention for the job, they've got to get it. They're 3 weeks now into their pre-season, into their off-season, since they've stopped playing. This is around the time, they're probably a week behind, where coaches are planning. The coaches are planning their attack and their program for pre-season, which takes into account their program for the season ahead and how they're going to play, what recruitment they need to. But the coach, whoever comes in, is going to look at his staffing, who he's going to put around him, and that takes a while. And for a season, you've got to get it right. So he's got to take his time and really assess what he needs. If he wants whoever that is, if it's Maguire, I can't see how he can do the Blues and the Broncos like Blairy. So you'd have to give someone up. And if they say you've got to give New South Wales up to do the Broncos, I'm not sure if he does. I'm not sure if he does. That's a huge job, and he's had success already. So they've got to rush. They've got to get onto this quickly and make the decision, the right one, to get that person in, to allow them to do the best job and get everything ready to go, because they're already behind it now.
Madge, please don't leave the Blues. We need you. The Broncos can find someone else. Moving on to the games, the preliminary.
Who do you want? Who do you want? Who do you want?
For the Broncos.
If he goes to the Bronx, who do you want as New South Wales? Freddie Fittler back, you reckon?
Nah, I just don't want anyone else after what happened this season, man. That was beautiful, that comeback victory.
Okay, move on.
Yeah. Love you, Madge. Thank you. First game of the preliminary finals, Storm versus Roosters at Amy Park, 48-18 to the Storm. Ended up blowing them out towards the back end, last 20 minutes. Your guys' predictions. Adam, you said Golden Point, Storm win. Jerome Hughes, man of the match. And Willie, you said Storm by 8. Papenhuyzen, man of the match. Both of them were contenders for man of the match for sure. But not quite the scoreline. I mean, Storm, correct pick, but No one was close to the 30-point margin that it ended up being.
No, I don't think anyone would have even considered them blowing them off the park that much. When you look at the performance of the Roosters the previous week and some of their key players standing up through the middle of the park, and we all know that's where the game's won, because if you start really well and you play off the front foot, off the back of momentum, this is what they can create. And I think we've always said that the Roosters have always had really good attack, but the defence has let them down. In this case, the defence let them down. The start of the game was exactly what everyone would have thought, that it'll be off the back fence and it'll come down to this first kickoff. Smart play from Craig Bellamy. Don't kick to Jared Waerea-Hargreaves of the kickoff. Put Nelson on the right-hand side. Don't put them up against each other. The spiritual leader didn't get to touch the ball. He didn't get to touch the ball, and he would have been hoping that that ball was coming to him, because he starts the momentum. So whenever someone plays Jared again over in the UK, do not kick the ball to him. He is a massive leader for energy and intent for your team. So they kick it over to Lindsay Collins. Nelson comes flying, and together, as you would off a kickoff, and there's a yellow card straight off the get-go, and you're thinking, well, 20 seconds into the game, the Storm are going to be under a bit of pressure here. They go on, they turn up, they absorb all the pressure, and then they just get into their flow. And then the spine for me, Papenhuyzen, Jerome, Munster. Sorry, I had a mind blank. The hooker. We all had a mind blank. Harry Grant, sorry. The spine for the Melbourne Storm were just enormous. And there is no structure around what those boys do at times. It's just, if there's a quick play of the ball, they are just front-footing everything. Jerome Hughes, I know that Dally M's not one at this time of the year because it's all done off your 27 weeks of football, but man, between that spine, they were enormous. Some of the tries, Papenhuyzen, I feel like he's coming back to his best. Right before grand final, I think he's had some injuries. He's coming good. I know there's a couple of concerns around some of those boys, but when it's a grand final, mate, you take as many needles as you can, and we're not encouraging that. You know what I mean? But you just know when it comes to rugby league, we're not encouraging taking all those needles. But I'll tell you what, if you're not missing a grand final for anything, and unfortunately for the Melbourne Storm, they may be missing Big Nelson, who I think is a key player just because of his presence. He attracts defenders, he can create offloads, he can create momentum, and if you don't have him, I don't know if there's anyone else at that Melbourne Storm that can create that for them. They do have some young kids coming through, but are they ready for the big dance? I couldn't tell you. They don't have a notable forward pack. They have a pack of workers that just keep turning up for each other. Josh King isn't a special player, but he knows how to get a job done. They come up against a quality side this weekend in the grand final who have got international all over them. Does that make any difference? I don't think so. I think the Storm will still turn up the same attitude. So I just thought at the end of the day, the class, the cream rise to the top, and the Storm were just outclassed. A Roosters team that just, we knew and we said that their defence just wouldn't hold up coming these big games.
Yeah, even at 6-0 down, I didn't have any panic because they had Nelson on the bench ready to come back on. And when they got back to equal numbers, that's when I thought, okay, this will be interesting. This will be the test whether the Roosters could hold on. And it was just a matter of how, for me, the Storm were going to get down to that end. And they opened the door with poor discipline and errors, the Roosters. And, yeah, they were great last week. And I said this last week when they played Manly. Manly only had 3 opportunities to attack that line and they scored 3 times. So I wanted to see what their resilience was like defensively at their first port of calling, and they leaked points straight away. And they just picked holes in. They had a plan. They had a clear and obvious plan, especially early doors. And we'll talk about that in a second. But they, as we've spoken about, the Panthers and the Storm, they are so disciplined and methodical in how they execute their plan. They just stick to it regardless of what happens. They might make an error, but they fall back to it. And the clip where you see they score a try and there's that spine, there's Hunt, Munster, Papenhuyzen and Hughes, the 4 of them walking back and they're talking and they're all just planning and scheming. You can see what they're putting together. And Trent Robinson spoke after the game just how in sync they are. because they talk and they work and they're just on the same page together.
Well, it's Cameron Smith, Cooper Cronk, Billy Slater, like, hey, the way that they always used to do things. And I remember just standing back and, like, we didn't have to do anything, bro. We just stood out wide. Those three would get together, plan everything off a tap. Every time that we had a stop-start, they would come together, and then they just go, get me to here, get me to there, and you just do your job. And, mate, they pretty much did exactly the same. They're in sync, that they know what to do in those situations. And I think the occasion too, Willie, for me is, I think the Roosters got caught up in that, is then they're just going to try and come out and fire up, and to the point that we'll show in the clip that we're going to talk about, that they were really tight trying to jam in on a couple of players. So I just thought they were just too classy in the end.
Yeah, I don't know where the Roosters go from this now. I don't know what's in store for them next with all the players that they're losing, all the firepower, all the experience that they're losing the next year or two. It's going to be a real big test for Trent Robinson and his coaching and his staff to see where they go because of what they're missing. And the experience that they've got, that group's been together for so long.
It has.
And been great together. He's got to start again. He's got to bring a new group, and it's hard starting again. But what Penrith have been able to do is do it slowly. Lose two, bring a couple in. The core of the group stays together. What's happening at the Roosters is a big chunk is going all at once. That changes the dynamics of the club and the organisation and the group and how they play. That's what I'm interested to see how they go next year.
Well, you're continuing to develop some of these younger players coming through, and you're giving them the opportunities. I think there's Trent Tolau, who you've seen a little bit of. He hasn't got much game time, but I'm guessing he's going to be their hooker moving forward in the future after Mitch. You know what I mean? So they're giving him some experience. They're keeping him at arm's length. They're developing, they're coaching, and they're saying, hey, we're just going to keep teaching you and giving you a feel for what NRL is like. And when that opportunity comes, and when they lose plays, everyone's going to go, well, who's next? Well, guess what? There's Trent Tolau, who's been sitting in the background, just grinding away, and they're just developing him nicely. And that's what they've always done. You know what I mean? They've lost so many players, and then they've just created those things. So I don't know where the Roosters go when it comes to where they find their development from. I don't even know if they've got any juniors, really. You know what I mean? Like, do they have a pathway?
Yeah, they've got some pathway. They've got a very good pathway. They've got some of the best kids coming through there. Obviously, because of the area, a lot of those kids come from Queensland. They come from out of town. So they get them through their production line to try and get them through, like Victor Radley and the Butchers, and some Kiwi kids like Tupunua, Joey Manu, who did their junior schooling through there. So they do work hard, and they're going to have to be relying on some of that coming through now. But, yeah, talking about the Storm, they just wore them down, did what they do, and I think everybody's surprised, blew them off the park by the end of it. And those last two tries that Munster scored were walk-ins that nobody would have seen at the start of the game, but it just took its toll. On the Roosters in the end, just how much pressure they just squeezed out of them.
We're going to have a look at that footage, or we'll roll that footage through, and you can talk to some of those points and show our audience what we're talking about, Willie, because
just get into it.
It is really great that we can explain these things, and you and I, and you know, the game was done on Friday night, so we may have forgotten all these things. So maybe if we can show and demonstrate what we're talking about, we'll give the audience a little bit of
Korowidamu's memory.
Testing out Korowidamu's memory here, but we'll talk through some of the tries that we're talking about, all that you just mentioned.
Yeah,
right?
well, I spoke about how they had a plan, an obvious and clear plan at the start of that game, and a lot of that play centred around trying to get to the left edge defenders of the Roosters and try and expose the deficiencies in Angus Crichton and Luke Keary in particular. But to do that, they had to swallow up and try and condense the line of the Roosters defenders on the other side of the field. So the end product you see on one side is actually a manifestation of what happens on the other side. So you see this play, Blore carries the ball in. Just stop it there. You see how many defenders are around the ball. It's a great effort from Sean Blore, one, to carry to that edge, but also to play the ball as fast as he does. Now, because they've got 7 blokes, 2, 4, 6, 8 blokes around the ball, just that movement from Connor Watson is so disruptive to the rest of the line. because he turns in, every
Well, yeah.
defender outside of him.
Well, just as he goes back here, Willie, just watch where his eyes are. You know what I mean? As a defender, you got to know that where the ball is. You look up what's in front of you, and then you've got to be able to adjust. But because his movements are turning in towards the ball, it puts pressure on the guys outside. So watch what happens here, Willie. You talk through this bit.
Yeah, he comes out top. That back rower, Angus Crichton, he should be outside that second post. It looks like he's on the near post. That's how tight their line is. So from where he is, Cleary and Suaalii and Tupou, they've got so much space to defend. And as the ball comes out, the only way they've got to go is head outwards. And to do that, you lose your hips.
Well, as you'll see in this, instead of coming forward, because they're outnumbered, they're sliding on their 10-metre line here. They don't want to be sliding. You want to be coming forward.
Yep.
But you can't come forward if your line's so condensed, which, like you said, gives them this opportunity here for them to get them on the outside shoulder and watch them go. They're all going sideways here because they're waiting for Angus Crichton to get his job done. He's too slow. There's too much space here. Watch.
And Papenhuyzen too fast.
They're all just standing there waiting. Tupou wants to jam. He doesn't. Suaalii's going backwards. Luke Keary takes a show and puts a lot of trust in Crichton to make that tackle. I think if he stays nice and square, he may end up running into him or being able to get into this takeaway.
But because his feet, and they stop there in that clip now, where his hips are, once his right foot crosses over his left foot, he can't turn back. He's so vulnerable on that right shoulder that he can't get back on his inside. Papenhuyzen knows this. These fast blokes, these spine players, these are the movements that they look to expose.
Just watch what happens here. It's like Willie said, we push play, bro. He steps over his left foot. He's going sideways, eh?
That's it.
The fullbacks are way too good now, way too fast. And that's the threat of the fullbacks now, is that if you can tie up that back rower and put that half under pressure, which is your three-man defender, which what they do here, Papenhuyzen, with the shape outside him, it's a tough tackle to make for a back rower. They're not as quick as some of those fullbacks. So this is a great example of what we spoke about pre-watching the video, but also about the methodicalness of what the Melbourne Storm do. And I think there was a lot of repeat sets in there. And it was just after Nelson got back. It was 12 minutes into the game. You shouldn't get things wrong. But under a bit of pressure, under a bit of fatigue, you get caught up in the whole, want to try and bash them through the middle of the park and be nice and condensed. But the Storm are too smart, and they've got some great players in there that can expose you out on the edges as well.
No, and we can't undervalue, as I said, the play the ball from Sean Bloor. It was that quick that there was very little time, if any, for the Roosters to adjust. Because whilst we're talking about what they did do, what they should have done and what they needed to do was open up to get Angus Crichton out on that post. If he gets out on that post and Connor Watson gets wide, Tupanua gets wide, then they're able to get square, and then they're defending different attackers. And that picture that we saw, Nelson Asofa-Solomona is on the outside of Crichton when he needs to be on the inside so he can get off, and it eases some of the pressure. So he needed to be on the inside to start with. It eases the pressure on Cleary. Now he's starting to take a nibble inside, but that makes the space outside him even wider. Lose your hips, happy days, and that's an invitation that Papenhuyzen just can't turn down.
Yeah, it's crazy. And
as I said, that was their plan. This was the first one, but you see on the second one that they did it again. They went to the same spot.
Yeah, so quality work, Willie. Right? Been watching a bit of footy, haven't you?
1 or 2 games.
two over the weekend.
While we get the second one up, just a stat here. Or a couple of stats actually for the Storm. Their 48 points was the most scored by the club in a finals match ever. Not too bad going into the grand final. And then also Nick Meaney has hit 600 points scored for the Storm. He's now 5th on the club's all-time leaderboard. Obviously, I don't know if he has a chance of catching Cameron Smith.
If he wants to play for 50 years.
Yeah. But good on him for reaching that milestone as well.
Yeah, I think just on the back rower stuff, Willie, I've defended in a back row position, and you spoke about him being on that outside post. That's typically normally your starting position as a back rower, and you pull your numbers towards you, which then allows our guys outside to be a little bit more calmer. If you don't win that play the ball, like you said, it was a quick play the ball from ball, you aren't able to adjust your line quick enough, because what I do as a back rower is I rely on my inside guys to get towards me and help me put some pressure on the ball player, so then I can also shift off my man and be real safe and make sure that these guys outside me are carved. We get a lot of comments, why do centers and winger jam? You know, a lot of comments from people go, what are they doing? Well, if you don't win the middle of the park, and you saw in those examples, if you don't win the middle of the park and you get 7 people inside a space of 10 metres or even 15 metres, that's why people start panicking. That's why they try and solve things on their own, because they're coming out of their systems, because the trust of being so tight in there, your back row not being able to pull your middle towards you to give you a bit of help to try and put pressure on that half, to play a little bit early. You don't want halves getting to the line. And hence why a long time ago you could take them out when they got to the line.
Yeah.
The more a player engages the line, the harder it is to defend, because now then you have to make decisions.
Yep.
But if they play early because you've had inside pressure, it allows everyone just to jump off their man and defend really well.
That's it. And because of the nature of our game, you've got to pass backwards. That's more ground for defenders to take. So you want them to play early. But as Blairy said, 100%, you've got to get your people in the middle of the park to work hard. They're the key to it so
It's
much.
a tough job, bro, because they are typically your bigger bodies on the field. They are your middle players. They should be getting paid more money. You know what I mean? Like, these guys work hard defensively, work hard in attack, because they're in the washing machine. It's just
That's
up,
right.
down, up, down, up, down, off the ground. But
And because they don't end up making the tackle, people don't see it.
yes, correct.
But the people that have an eye for the game
Yep.
have a real appreciation for the work
And when
that
the
they do.
decision is made correctly, it's because they're in a system and a structure that suits their team and how they defend. So again, going back to the back row days, always relied on my 5 man inside me to communicate, for me to communicate to him to communicate to his middles, to bring towards me. And then my job was to also communicate to the half, because he's screaming at me, he's panicking. And I'm saying, brother, I'm getting him. They're coming. You know what I mean? Just trust me. So you've got a hard job as a back rower to communicate inside and outside, but also to make sure these guys outside you are calm. Because if they're not calm, that's what ends up happening. People start jamming in and trying to solve things on their own. So the job as a back rower is you talk to your half, let them know that you've got them. You talk to your 5 men and say, brothers, I need some numbers. You got to come. Otherwise, people try and solve things on your own. And again, we go back to the middle of the park. You win that tackle on the try line, then you can set your line up correctly and you get in the right positions, and then you can stay in your systems and structures.
But this wasn't a one-off. That play wasn't a one-off. As I said, they'd seen something, Melbourne, in the Roosters, especially to attack this edge, especially with Jerome Hughes. So they, this time a little bit later in the game, but a bit further out, but still attacking at the same side, trying to get at Angus Crichton and trying to get that movement and trying to get Luke Keary to lose his hips. Hughes gets it out to Papenhuyzen. Now stop there. So what happened the last time when Papenhuyzen burns them for speed, that spooks the living daylights out of Luke Keary. Because he's so quick, he doesn't want to let him burn. And because he does that, Papenhuyzen just gets him to lose his hips. He sees that he's lost him. Nick Meaney back inside. And again, getting at Angus Crichton, who can't find that pace to close that gate or shut the gate.
Yeah, well, it's if you even go back to that the defensive reads through that middle of the park there, you hear typically if Tupanua could check off King and be able to put pressure on Jerome Hughes, then Angus Crichton can take a step onto Ali Katoa and then make sure that he can check and then be able to release.
Yep.
So watch the pass, see the pass. If it plays short, be able to get into that tackle. If he goes out the back, then he can move on to Papenhuyzen and say, well, watch this. He's just creeping across the field. No one's actually coming out and making him play. Stop there. He hasn't made him play. And then Angus Crichton goes, but he doesn't go forward.
No.
He just goes sideways and he's just crabbing across the field, Crabbing across the field. He's too slow to be able to fill that space. So as Papenhuyzen burns Cleary, as we go here, burns him, he's just a second off, just a step off where he's supposed to be. He want to be landing on him, literally the next step, bang, landing on him there. But because he hasn't been able to get their job through the middle of the park, or some of those 5 men haven't been able to help him, this is what it is. And like you said, Cleary, he was under pressure from the play before. But they kept doing this because they knew that there was something there that they could expose. Again, you still got to execute the play, But this is the pressure, and this is the way that the Storm, and obviously the Penrith Panthers, are so methodical with what they do. They understand the detail in their jobs, and they get it done. And as you see this nice try here, and this is a great drop-off play here. You don't even see the pass. You know, I don't know if we have the other view of the other angle. You see Cleary, he doesn't even know that pass is coming. So you watch this play here. This is a nice picture of the place. There's good spacing here. Just here, everyone's crabbing across the field rather than going forward. Tupanua going forward and making him play as he goes forward here. Cleary's just got only eyes for Papenhuyzen. You don't even see him take a look at Nick Meaney here. He's still going. And this pass there, look, he just don't
Hip's
look.
gone.
It's gone. He doesn't even know.
No.
It's gone. And then just a nice little flick here. Sully smokes him.
So in that one play, Papenhuyzen's got 2 defenders sucked in.
Got him.
Just go back. I really love, and this is important to look at, what Couture does. He runs a lead, but got so much awareness not to impede the defender, just pulls up. We see so often that lead runner running into the defender and it being called back for a no try, but he's got some awareness. Oh, I'm on his outside shoulder. If I make contact and he falls, this will be ruled back. But he just pulls up as hard as he's running. Great job by Eli Couture.
Even just that little bit of checking that Crichton had to do stopped his momentum. You know, just that little part there just to go, get off me, Ali. And then just that momentum of stopping his momentum there, it just doesn't, like, he's got to go harder now. He's still got to go harder. As he's flicking this ball, he wants to be banging him right now.
Look at that space now. That's
just
5 meters.
Too big. You know, and Tedesco's in the right position, but also the support of, you know, we spoke about the spine. Like, this is what they do really well. It's some great footage again.
Yeah, well done, Melbourne. And they had a plan. They stuck to it as they do and got the rewards and punched their ticket to next week.
Love the old run it
Well
back.
done, Melbourne, but also well done, run it straight. That was a beautiful.
Love
Well done,
the old,
well done.
love the old run it back,
Commentary
bro. Love the old run it back.
I got one more to go, one more point on this game before we move on. So halftime score 22-6 to the Storm. They come out of halftime. The Roosters are the first 2 tries after halftime. So penalty for the Storm, then 2 tries, cut the deficit to 6. They kind of looked like they might be able to keep going on with it until there was the try with the knock-on from Alec McDonald, which went uncalled because a set went by and then they scored. So I just wanted your guys' thoughts on whether or not they should be able to go back a set, because it was a pretty clear
Yeah, it was a knock-on. Yeah.
They didn't call it.
No.
I think Josh King or Katoa gets tackled, and then because he's been tackled and they score immediately next play, they can't go back before the tackle.
Well, that's the trick sometimes, eh? This is the trick that you can play sometimes as a footballer. If you think that something's happened and the ref hasn't caught it, rather than go and score the try and then go back and take it away from you, get tackled. Get tackled. So these are the things that you can get away with. And I know you're not thinking that in the moment, but it's like anything. If, you know, there's someone goes for an intercept and it hits a couple of hands and then you might get it and the ref says play on, don't run the length. Just go back to someone and get tackled, because if you know personally that you've knocked the ball on but the ref hasn't seen it, you're going to get pulled back up in a video replay and they're going to say, nah, but knock on back there. So the trick is, and I don't know if they're even thinking this, is if you feel like something's wrong and you've got away with it, get tackled, because they can't go back and watch it. And then if you score for the next play, prime example was a clear knock on.
Yep.
Clear knock on. Like, no one's going to argue that. But because of what happened earlier, got tackled after it, sweet, it's all clear, play on. You're not looking at that play now because you're going back to the play.
Yeah.
It's looking around the play. Well, everything's clean there. So, yeah, it's mostly a little bit of a flaw in the system, that one, where if, you could go back to it, you would take that try off them.
Yeah, but I don't want him to go back. We had this discussion before, how far back do we go to? You know? But Blairy's right, that's the flaw of the system, but I don't want him to go back a play before or further back. The play's gone.
Move on.
Yeah, move on.
And as much as it was, perhaps, well, it was a knock-on and it shouldn't have been a try for that one, that's no discredit to the Storm. Obviously, they still piled on another 20 points after that. So, but yes, just an interesting thought, that one. Moving on now to the next game, my Panthers versus the Sharks.
But you know, if we go back through the whole season that we've been speaking about games, you've had that many my teams, it's not funny. You know, if we were to clip up some of these things, which I know we're going to, and it's going to be my team, it's the Doggies, it's the Dolphins, it's who else have you got? It's the Tigers. You know what I mean? Like, if we clip those all up, but you're going to look like an egg.
If anybody is out there and you got access to some jerseys, please help this man out. He spent all his pocket money on his jerseys this year. So help him out, please.
Yeah, I'd love a Storm jersey.
Just in case.
Just in case. But the Panthers...
I got us one.
At a core, 26-6 to the Panthers. Your guys' predictions for this one: Adam, 24-12 with Cleary as man of the match. And Willie, Panthers by 20. Perfect on right there, but Tall as man of the match.
Should have been.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty good performance. They didn't quite, for both the two games, the Sharks and the Roosters, who the Storm and Panthers have both played in these playoffs, the Panthers haven't quite destroyed them as much as the Storm have. Do you think, I know you're Storm hard for the final, Adam, do you think that's telling, or is telling of how good the team is, or just the play style?
I think the Cronulla Sharks turned up. I think they turned up in that first part of the game to go after the Penrith team, which you have to because you know that they're coming for you anyway. The Penrith typically blow teams off the park in the first 20, 25 minutes just with pure intensity. They're running, their defence. Mitch Kenny leads the line defensively. Moses Leota, James Fisher-Harris come flying out. They attack you with their defence before they attack you with their attack. And when they get that right, they blow teams off the park. But I definitely thought that the Cronulla Sharks turned up with a mindset to attack them defensively as well. What let the Sharks down in this game is their errors. They had field position and position in the right place, but they just couldn't execute it or get to the end of their set or be a threat. There was some clunkiness near the try line for the Cronulla Sharks. And I thought, with 6 minutes to go, I think that's when the Panthers blew them off and got those late couple of tries. But I thought the game was in the balance for a fair bit of the game. I didn't think that the Panthers were going to come away with it in the end. I thought they were going to be good, but I also thought that there's a chance here that Cronulla may be able to win this game. Again, class of the Penrith Panthers, they don't go away from what their jobs are. They know what their systems, they know what works, they know how to get it done, and they continuously just keep grinding and grinding away and then blow them off the park with 6 minutes to go and take the scoreline out of them. But I just thought the Cronulla Sharks defensively turned up with an attitude, which is what you need this time of the year against a quality Penrith team. But the errors for me was probably the most disappointing. When they had the opportunity to strike, they looked clunky, they didn't strike, and they had too many forced errors. And that's not going to be good enough this time of the year up against a quality side to be able to win their game to play a grand final. It just showed the class, again, the cream rose to the top. And you give credit to the Cronulla Sharks. I didn't think they came into the finals with a great start. They turned up the weekend before, and then I thought defensively they turned up again and hung tough for most of that game.
Yeah, the Panthers are a team you've got to play for 80 minutes. You're in that grind, you're in that arm wrestle for 80 minutes. And when Katoa scored late on, I thought it was game on, and I thought there was a sniff of momentum swinging the Sharks' way, and they looked like they were going to take it. But like I say, there was still 20 minutes left, and they just keep grinding. They just keep sticking with it, and they love the arm wrestle. And full credit to the Sharks. They stayed with them. When I didn't give them much hope of doing that, but they did. They were fantastic on the weekend and asked some questions, just didn't come up with enough points in the end. And as I said, the Panthers laid on. If it takes them 20 minutes, they'll blow you off the park. If they're ready to roll up their sleeves and do it for 50, 60, or as in this case, nearly 75 minutes to get it done, they'll do it. They're prepared for everything. Do I think they're near their best? No. And I think that's a positive for them going into this. They know that they've won a semi-final by 20 points and there's still a massive amount of improvement in them. There's still a lot of room that they can get better coming into this week, along with knowing how things are done. They know what it takes at this time of year. I think we're in for one of the best grand finals in a long time.
Hey, bro, 2015, bro. Brisbane Cowboys, man. Don't be like that, will you? I'm sitting right here, but yeah, no, you're right, bro.
Man,
No, I think
it has been a long time since then, though. That's 9
Yeah, and that was great. That was a great game, and it went down to the wire extra point. I'm not sure if this will go to extra point. I think this will just be one of those 80-minute bash-a-thons where there's going to be line speed, people on the line, Fisher Harris against King, Moses, that pack against theirs. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But as I say, the Panthers, they know how to get it done. And they've got a system, they've got a way, they've got some plays that they've been employing for a little while now. And we saw some of those plays executed on the weekend where they just fall into it. They just know. Each other knows what their roles are. And that's been practice. That's been practice in games, and it's been practice, obviously, in the semi-finals. So, yeah, I'm excited for this weekend. Well done to the Panthers for reaching five ridiculous grand finals. And that's what it is. It's ridiculous. In this day and age, in the salary cap era, when the salary cap was brought in to bring equality throughout the league and have different teams every single year, for one team to be able to be under the salary cap, lose players year after year, but also bring players in of that quality and replace them to get there year after year. And that says something about their system, about their club, about their culture, and about their coaching.
And they got so much to play for. And I know both teams do as well. But every time they've seen someone off to a new club, they have gone over and beyond. And I think, the thought of winning 4 grand finals in a row is enough motivation for any player to try and go after, because now you're in the books of history. Now you're chasing history, a legacy now. Individual legacy, team legacy, club, NRL legacy is that there's no one that's ever done the 3. There's no one that's ever done 4.
Oh.
So when you think about it, in these big games, in these moments, in these grand finals, they know how to get it done. The Storm, although the Storm are quality, they haven't played a grand final for a while. And these guys will be coming in with the understanding is that we've been here the last 3 years or last 5 years, last 5 years, and we know what our week looks like. We know what our everyday preparation looks like. We know the feeling of running out on the grand final. We know what a grand final week is, because that's really important. If you've never been there before, it can get overwhelming for a young player or a player that's got all these responsibilities, the media everywhere. From day one, which is today for everyone, it's in your face. You're pumping up your season. You're pumping up yourself individually. So that can be a little bit overwhelming. So if you're not used to those things, even travel for the Melbourne Storm, like what day do you travel down? All those kind of things, when's your media day? When's your captain's run? Those kind of things, what time those are. Like all those things can become a distraction. The Penrith Panthers have consistently done that, and this is their 5th year for 5 years now. So when you think about it, you'd think the Panthers are the favourites to win this. You'd put your money on the Panthers if you're a Panthers fan, that they are going to be good enough to win it. The Melbourne Storm, another team that are good at big games. Are they good enough to take this game away from the Penrith Panthers that have done it consistently over the last 4 years? It'll be exciting. Like you said, it would be right up there with some of the bigger games.
We spoke about the spine of the Storm and how important they were on Friday night. I think Nathan Cleary and Luai, their influence on the game will be important. And we've got a couple of clips that we'll have a look at and a play that they've nailed down. We saw it, some variations to it over the last couple of weeks, but just as an indication of their football smarts and their plan to wear the opposition down and what they're looking for in order to expose the holes in the defence, depending on what looks they get. We'll just have a look at these clips.
It's funny you say that, because I saw this happening early on this season. I was trying to work it out myself, Willie. I was like, why are they dropping, the wingers back through the middle of the park? They're trying to work on something. I don't think they were scoring off these plays back then, but I was trying to get an understanding of why they keep dropping Tangol back through the middle of the park, why Brian To'o comes back through the middle of the park. And this is a prime example that we're just gonna talk to of why they have done it consistently, and now the benefit is coming. And you talk through this one, Willie. Look at this. This is methodical.
Yeah, they look to turn it back under in order to isolate these defenders, and they're looking for mismatches. So if we hold it there, in this part of if we just go back there, what we're looking for is mismatches in numbers and trying to disorganise the defensive line. On that part of the line, on the short side, we're looking to, one, try and get numbers wrong, but also personnel. And on this occasion, where you can see Nathan Cleary drops Tungall back under, but he clears out straight away. One, he knows Tungall's coming back and he's got to get out of the way, but he's also coming out to this left-hand side to sort out a play. On this occasion, he's not quite ready because the look isn't what they want. The look on the short side, they're looking to get, my suspicion is, Will Kennedy, the fullback, on that short side. He's trying to get him over there, so he's out of the way for this big play. So they're not ready for it right now.
Well, it's man on numbers here, isn't it?
Isn't
it? Man on numbers. So that they, like you said, they haven't got the look. And as you see this, they'll put someone into the position so that they can get what they need. And as they come out here, he just puts Moses Leota straight back in there. Now, that's when Kennedy has to put himself over there. Now let's run through this play, Willie.
Yeah, if you just go back a touch though, you see he's in the tackle. They've got that left back rower. He's in the tackle now. So because he's out of that defensive unit, Will Kennedy's got no choice but to get over that short side and cover. So he's out of the way now. Quickest play the ball. The line is compressed. Play out to... So stop there. Clear his eyes now. That's the fourth defender, Nikora. He's there. They've got a double-up play right on Nico Hines. This is such it's almost an impossible play to defend on Nico Hines. If he comes in, they play to Alamotti. If he stays out, they play short. And Garner walks in. But they've run it perfectly.
Well, even if, stop there, even if he doesn't, just go back a little bit, even if he wants to play at the back, there's still an overlap. Because Talakai has to come in on Alamotti here because he's running an awesome line. That's the hardest play to defend as a half when you've got inside-outside runners, inside-outside your shoulder. You're standing there, it's like, who do you get? Because the job of Britain Nakora is to get that half. If he gets across to you, you now have to make a decision. So the decision is to stay square. So he stayed square here, and he's just picked the right option every time, and you're running that hard. Talakai isn't a centre.
No.
Isn't a centre. He plays centre at times, can fill in and can get a job done. But he isn't Jesse Ramian.
No.
Jesse Ramian may have struggled with this play as well because it's a great play because what they've said, like you said, they've got the fullback stuck on the short side and he's got the ball straight on the back row, which then gives him this option. And if he plays at the back, they still got a 2-on-1 at the back as well, and they have to jam those fullback those wingers. And like I said earlier with the Storm, everyone asks us why people jam at the back. It's because they put under pressure. They haven't got their numbers right.
That's right. And people were saying, well, Nico Hines is different to Luke Keary. He has stayed square. Well, he's healed. He's just on his heels and he's got himself into a position where he can't move. Ideally, you want him to get to the 10-metre line and get out and put some pressure on. But because there's no pressure on Nathan Cleary, he can play up the line and he's dictating terms now. And the point of this is it's not a one-play situation. This was 3 plays in the making. This was built up. And even off the first play, when Nathan Cleary was set, no, I'm not ready now. Moses Leota, just take me one more and tie up that back rower. And when I see Will Kennedy on the short side, all right, this is when I'm ready to play now. And they just run it so perfectly. If you put it all together, please, Dills, you just see now, run the whole sequence. Cleary knows it's coming back. He clears out.
Looking for numbers.
Looking for what we're saying.
Hasn't got it.
No, just take one more. Simple play.
Now gets that
but
back
it's for
row
a purpose.
involved. And then just
Ready now.
perfectly run.
He's the fourth man. But even when the cues are different and it's not the fourth man, he's got a different idea what to play. He's got to play up his sleeve if he gets to the 5-man, which is even more incredible because he's got options all over the park. If we have a look at the next clip.
I think we got them. Have we got them side up and down? back to back. You shut them together, and you can run the same chat, Willie, with this one here, which is it's literally
identical.
the same play with a different option. So the options are he runs, he plays either short or long to his centre Alamuti, or he plays out the back to Jerome Luai, who just draws him past for the winger. So he's got five options
all up his sleeve
of a sequence of play. It's a build up of a position of where they are on the field. If they don't see the look, just like we saw there, drop Moses Leota into where you need him to get to. Get that back row involved. And I think that's what they're looking for. The key is getting that back row into the tackle. So then the fullback has to put himself inside on the A on the left side, on the short side, which typically is how fullback defence now is. You shore up the short side first, and then you have to push as hard as you can to go and close that space. I don't think too many of the fullbacks are aware of what's coming, or they're just clocking off for that second, which is what we spoke about with Angus Crichton, and just going, it's not going to go there. And before they get there, it's just too late.
Yep.
It's just too late. And some of these efforts, although the fullbacks do a lot of work, when you're playing in big games, you've got to put yourself on the pitch. And I don't think 9 times out of 10, I haven't seen them put themselves in the pitch in some of these plays that I guess the Penrith Panthers played and also the Melbourne Storm. But, if the Melbourne Storm are doing their homework, I reckon 10 times out of 10, they're going to be running exactly the same shape again. It works. They know it works, but there's so many options off the back of it.
And it's one thing to know what's coming. It's another thing to be able to deal with it.
Yeah.
Because what you said, they've got 5 options on the play. One miscue, one misread, one slip over, one defender out of position. All right, we'll go to the next option. Quarterback in NFL, you talk about progressions. Nathan Cleary goes through his progressions. So the point we're trying to make is these aren't one-shot plays. These are sequences that are built up. And the bottom one was against the Roosters a couple of weeks ago. But you see,
it's exactly the same.
Run against the play we've just looked at. Cleary.
Dylan Edwards, straight to Tonga, back through the middle of the park. Brian To'o's right there as well. Great carry. Strong carry is important. Now, you can't just go down and surrender.
So we stop there. Again, what he's looking at, Kennedy was on the top one, short side. They've got Tedesco on the short side now. So fullbacks out of play. They've got 5 defenders.
We got 3. Look at where, is that Angus Crichton? Look at that. There's 3 of them all in marking, all eyes in on the 9, which you have to take care of first. But they're so tight in there. Connor Watson
again turned in.
So tight. And then let's play this out.
So stop there. So the top one, Cleary gets to the 4-man, which is able to run that double up play.
Which is Britain in this case.
Britain Nakora. This time it's the 5-man. It's Lindsay Collins. So because it's the 5-man, he can't quite get the double up play. He could play out the back if he wanted to, but he realises that Tedesco's on the other side. He's not coming up. There's some clearance at the back. A nice little def kick, different option on the play. Exactly the same setup. Rolls it through.
Just a different
option.
That's one of the 5 or one of the 6 options that he has on the back of it, isn't it?
That's it. So
but I think what's different here, yes, we're speaking about, if we go back, we're speaking about the 5-man Lindsay Collins. Just go through Lindsay Collins' movements here. What's different is that they come up, keep coming. The half there, stop there. The halves come right up into the line. So this is Mushroom the only option. Joseph Manu's right there, so they could go out the back here. But because Cleary can't see that pass, because now in his vision, he sees, is it Sandon Smith? He sees Sandon Smith up in the line. So the option is to be able to, if he goes, same thing, we speak about it up here. If he plays out the back to Jerome Luai, he's already got Joey Manu turned in. Jerome Luai beats him for gas anyway.
Yep.
But because he plays this option, this is one of the 5 options or one of the 6 options he can. He's got it on the 5-man. This time, rather than play that ball to Alamuti, who's running a really good line, he puts a little grubber in. And the fullback, we're talking about the fullback again, Tedesco, he's standing over there watching.
Yep.
Your job as a fullback is to put yourself in the picture.
And we go back to what we said before. It's so important that your middles defensively be aggressive and get off.
Yeah.
But what the Panthers do here on that bottom clip is with the 2 middles lined up and Fisher Harris there in the middle as well, spook them so much they can't. They've got a hold off them and wait for them. If we go back to the play the ball, you see they got Isaiah Yeo, Fish there, 3 middles. You've got to be careful of Kenny at dummy half. Those 3, hold them up, keep the line passive, and then it just goes to Cleary, and he's dictating terms here. Playing at the line in his dinner suit, takes Collins out all the time in the world to put the precision of the kick in place.
Perfect.
Pinpoint, try. Same setup. We can expect to see this next week in the grand final.
Definitely, and I think the important thing for the opposition here, in both of those runs, that they lost the ruck, lost the play the ball, lost the tackle. So we look at all the tackles. Tonga, he drags him from 10 metres out. 10 metres out, he drags him. It's a tough carry. He has to use his feet and watch him go. Like he's hard to handle. He's running into a lot of them players here, 3 players, but he fights, he works hard. He's poked his nose through. Now the momentum's with him. He gets down, the same thing up the top with Moses Leota. It's the play the ball for me. So if the speed's too quick, again, that's what they're looking for. That's why they're creating those momentum. That's what they're trying to do, is they're looking for those numbers, but they're also looking for the keys and the cues, which is the quick play the ball, which is making sure that they've tied up the right person, keeping that fullback on the short side, and then running that shape, bro. And you got to applaud both teams at this time of the year, running these shapes that have worked for them, which they trust, and they just rely on them and going back to them because they're so methodical and they understand what the looks look like and how to play them. You got the best 7 in the comp right now playing that shape, and when he says pull the trigger, it's pull the trigger, you move. So it's great. Another great little insight to some of the plays that we pulled up on. But nice work, Willie.
I need some popcorn, man. That was like being at the cinemas. That was awesome. A couple of moments we don't have on the video that I wanted to point out. The Dylan Edwards 40-20 save, where Braydon Trindall for 40-20.
Sonia Taruva gets back.
Nailed it, but then Dylan Edwards all the way out, bats it back in to no one. And it's a race between Taruva and Katoa.
Well, it was Taruva for me, the understanding to be in position. You know what I mean? Like, that was a great kick. And it was also a great save. But if Taruva isn't back there, that's a try. That's a try. But his intent and intensity and his, I guess, awareness of the play to get back on side, to know that that's what's going to happen, was the play for me. Like, they just know. And I think that's a great trait to have when you've built up this culture and this connection through the players and you see them enjoying themselves. I think when you know something is happening is to foresee what's coming, to foresee or plan for what's ahead of it and thinking maybe 2 plays ahead. And as a winger, sometimes you can get caught just standing out there and catching a cold, but these guys aren't out there catching colds. They're doing some work, and that's putting himself in the picture. That's what I talk about, being in the picture. If he's not there in the picture, they score that try 9 times out of 10.
That was a great kick by Trindall. Jeez, he hit that well. Cleary's 40-20 in the first half. That was a momentum killer.
I think that's what set up that try that we just played before.
That gave him the field position.
And then the other moment is controversies when Taruva's try was ruled out because of the obstruction.
Yeah, not an obstruction, bro.
The bunker, they are saying, I remember, because I was outraged, to be honest, that they say he was clearly running at the outside shoulder.
Of who?
Of Talakai. This is Ghana. And I was just thinking, that's his inside shoulder. Like, I was clear as day.
I think they had the people
Sometimes
wrong.
I can give them benefit of the doubt. I'm just like some guy that doesn't know a lot. But in that one, I was sure that was his inside shoulder that he was.
Yeah, well, and Cleary said it after that. Like, he doesn't say too much, but the threat of that being a decision in a grand final, when clearly it's not an obstruction, clearly, like, we all know that. But for the video ref to say that was and disallowed that try, man, you wouldn't want that to decide a grand final and then come out on a Monday and say, no, that wasn't an obstruction. It was not an obstruction. Should have been given a try. It's disappointing that this time of the year they're getting it wrong still. And it's a man's opinion. It's a man's opinion, but we know the rules. We should clearly know what an obstruction is. He was running inside shoulder. Talagai comes in to make the tackle on his left shoulder. They were attacking the right hand side of the Sharks. running a line, which is a back row's line, inside shoulder. He half turns himself into him. They score on the outside, which is perfect run as a play. So I think Ivan Cleary had the right to say something. Like, if you don't get that right, like, you should be able to, which is clearly stated what an obstruction is, you should get that right.
I don't think anybody saw it otherwise, other than the bunker. I think his explanation got him in trouble.
Yeah.
When he said he's attacked his outside shoulder. You can obviously see it's his inside shoulder. You can see that Talakai, he initiated contact by stepping in with
his inside shoulder.
The runner did not prevent him from getting out. He did it himself. And it wasn't his outside shoulder that stopped him. It was his inside shoulder because of his bad read. And I agree with Nathan Cleary. Hopefully they get this right, because I'd hate to be the grand final to be decided on an important play like that.
Ivan,
Isaiah Yeo broke the all-time appearance for the Panthers, 243 games. As much of a workhorse as ever, 185 metres, 41 tackles, 0 misses.
Yeah.
And then the other guy, who, this kind of goes back to the point you made before about guys like Trent Toilau.
Yeah.
Paul Alamotti has filled in since he got his place sort of mid-season, and every game he's just been, chipping away, and obviously 2 tries, kicked a conversion in this one as well, 26 tackles, just part of the next step of the Panthers machine. And he didn't even grow up in the Panthers; he came over from the Bulldogs. So.
Well, he was a bright star as a young kid. He still is a young kid, but you fall into a system that's really good at details and development, and is playing his role in the team now, and can kick a ball, can run a good line, obviously, is a strong attacker and defender, getting a job done. He's now going to be playing in the grand final after having his time, was that at the Bulldogs? Having his time at the Bulldogs, now moved to the Penrith Panthers. Didn't do much at the start of the year, but come in with an opportunity, really grabbed it with both hands. He's now going to be playing in the grand final.
Could play for Tonga.
And could play for Tonga. Last week I put him in the Samoan. I put him in the Samoan team. Mentioned him in the Samoan team. Obviously, our fans know more than me sometimes. But Willie, did you know he was Tongan?
No, I didn't know.
Okay. So I'm in good space here. But like, he's a quality young kid and a strong centre. So got a bright future. But he gets to play in a finals, a grand final, which is every kid's dream, every player's dream. The next part is to try and win it.
Before we head into our proper preview for the grand final, we'll quickly touch on the NRLW prelims, which both happened on Sunday. And the 2 teams, ironically, that lost out in the NRL prelims were the ones that triumphed for the NRLW. The Sharks besting the Broncos and the Roosters beating the Premiership holding Knights. 14-0 to the Sharks and 25-16 to the Roosters. Did you guys catch either of those games?
I watched the Broncos game. I didn't watch the second one. Willie would have watched the second one. I went to sleep. Daylight savings got me a beauty. 8:30. I had my kids off to Australia. So hey, just being really honest, guys. I'm not going to lie myself through this one, eh? But I was quite disappointed with the Brisbane Broncos. 7 straight wins. They didn't start well this season. Big hype around the off season and how well they did, how hard they train, and the best condition that they've been in for a long time. I think there was a moment in the season. I think it was Nuasala that had a bit of a punch up. That was pretty cool to see. And she had some time on the sidelines. And then they went on a bit of a run, and I thought, man, this team can attack. They are the best attacking team in the comp. I think they were the worst defensive team. Hey, so when you go from being, winning 7 consecutive games and the biggest game, like we've said before, in the season for them, I thought they were real disappointing. I think there was a bit of errors, a bit of clunkiness. They were trying to create things to try and score their points. There was opportunities, they never executed. But for me, the Cronulla Sharks were tough. Their outside back, some of the contact through the middle of the park, some of their Pacifica girls, man, their centres are strong with how they carry the ball. They made it a contest just on the way that they carried the ball. I thought it was a high-intensity game. I think, 14-0 to hold the Brisbane Broncos, who's the best attacking team in the comp. To nil It's a great, and I think the stat was, it wasn't, I think a long time ago, the Broncos have never been held to nil.
First time
First time
scoreless, and they've
Ever.
been averaging 30 points
Yeah.
per game this season.
So I know they played them previously, maybe 2 weeks ago. The Broncos got home on the last couple of minutes. I think there was a bit of a point to prove here from the Cronulla Sharks. They knew they had a wood over the Broncos, and turned up with the attitude at home, which is the most disappointing one for the Broncos women. But that's rugby league, isn't it? Some of the best teams the previous year, we've seen that in the men's comp, not always there at the big dance, but the two teams are now there competing, and it's going to be an awesome final.
Yeah, it was like you said about those two centres as well. Tiana Penatani and
Yeah.
Anessa Biddle.
Oh,
Just Biddle is actually, she's Kiwi, so you could give her a pat on the back.
yeah, and I think they were talking in commentary about they were worried that she was going back to New Zealand to the Warriors, but I think she's signed for a couple of years, so they're not going to lose her. But she was beastie.
And
Yeah, I think the physicality of the Sharks was the difference. I say defence wins big games, and I was not always a believer in it, but that was the case. They frustrated the best attacking team. They were really clunky, the Broncos, in attack, but that was because they were so physical. But there was some fantastic play. The last try to the Sharks, the cutout ball, the double cutout ball to the winger to go over in the corner was a superb piece of rugby league play to ice the game, and well done to the Sharks for getting to their first ever grand final in the NRLW. As I said, it wasn't too long ago, I think it was only 2 or 3 weeks ago, they lost to the Tigers to give them their first win of the season. To rise up from that and put in that performance, it shows where they can be and what they need to do next week.
Up against the superstar team, the Roosters, they are a superstar team, aren't they? Some of the best women in the competition are in their team, and beating the former grand final winners, the Premiers,
the Knights,
the
two
Knights,
times on the trot.
2 times they were going to go try and make more history, but to beat a quality side like them that had been there and done it before, you look at their Roosters team, they are stacked though. Come on, let's just be honest.
Did you watch the Roosters versus the Knights?
I did see bits of it, yeah, and I was expecting the Knights to come through. Yeah, I just thought that they faltered in the headlights. But the Roosters were very, very good. They got out to a lead, and then I thought the Knights were going to mount something to come back, but they just didn't have it, unfortunately, for Ben Jeffries and his team. They couldn't get it done. But, yeah, the Roosters, all the superstars on their side, they've been hungry for this. This would have been devastating if they missed out again this season. But they get there. They'll be there on Sunday going against the Sharks. Big All Sydney affair, as you said, when the men's teams couldn't do it on the weekend, leave it to the ladies.
Hopefully all their fans are going to turn up for that game. It's at the same stadium, right?
They'll be okay.
It's a huge day of rugby league. I think, what is it, the Jets? The Jets will play North Devils.
Devils against the Newtown Jets,
The Newtown Jets. The women's will be
Roosters
will be
Roosters
there.
Sharks.
And then obviously the NRL.
Yeah. They've always had 3 games.
I think it starts
used to be the 21s reserves and then the main grand final, but now it's the Queensland Cup and New South Wales Cup winners playing each other. Then it's the women NRLW, and then the big boys.
Yeah, what's the day start about midday? Everyone starts rolling, and she's a long day, man. She's a long day, but wow, some great rugby league to be played. That's finals day. How do you not want to be a part of that?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Willie, you going?
I'd love to run it straight. Going.
We going?
We going.
We got to wake up in the morning and film the show. I mean,
You won't be able to do it, eh?
don't know. It'll be hard. The game starts at 9:30 on Sunday. the NRL.
Okay, that's a no. We're not going.
I think it's an unfortunate no. Next year, Vegas, all that stuff.
Oosh.
But we'll move on then to the preview for the NRL Grand Final. The Storm versus the Panthers. Top 2 seeded teams have made it all the way. At a core, as I said, 9:30 p.m. So we're going to go player by player matched up against each other and determine a grade, I guess you'd say, like a score for each matchup. Fullbacks, who's the better one, etc., and get a total score at the end of which team is better suited for the matchup. Are you guys happy with that?
Yeah.
Yep.
As when you say grade, like a number.
A number.
Out of
1
10?
to 10.
Out of 10,
Yeah, yeah, sweet.
So starting off, Papenhuyzen versus Edwards at fullback.
For this game is
For this, or we could do based on the season they've had, or
no,
based
we'll
on
do for this game.
for this game. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just give us the rundown on the matchup then between the two.
Well, I think this is going to be this is the matchup alongside, I guess, Jerome and Cleary. Oh, Cleary and Jerome Hughes. I think this is the other big matchup here. So what do you give them an 8? I give them both. What's the 8?
I give them both a 9.
9, 8.
I'm giving them both a 9. It's hard to separate either from each other at this moment in time.
Let's just do 9.
I think they're both coming in so dangerously. So, yeah, both of them, I give them a 9.
Yeah.
Taruva and Warbrick, I believe, will be on the same side, both wearing the number 2. If Taruva stays out on the left for the Panthers, he's back in the team regularly now after he was out for a while, and obviously Warbrick has been massive recently. What are the grades for those two?
Well, I think purely on what Warbrick is going to be able to do, as long as it's executed, I give him an 8. Taruva's not going to be out-competed. He's not going to be out-competed, but I think he gets him here. I think this is where the difference will be. I give him a 7. Like, it's close. Everything's going to be either one point or less. You know, I give the upper hand to Warbrick. But
just like me myself too. Same score.
But they still got to execute these plays. Like, I know they're going to kick to Warbrick, but both sides are just, it's like Xavier Coates is on the other side.
Yeah.
So it's going to be close like this.
Jack Howarth and Isaac Tungle.
Oh, I'm going to say Isaac Tungle 8, 7.
7 for Howarth,
Yeah.
the newer face.
Yeah. I'll go 8-7 too. Yeah.
I just think big game.
defensively smart.
Yeah, and big game experience too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Jack's, what's he, 21? Has he played in some big games? I'm just thinking, you know what I mean? Like, this is just us, in my opinions. I just think Tungle, like, he's so consistent at what he does. He's played in these big games before. You know, Jack Howarth is going to have his work cut out. So I just think, it's going to be a bit like this. So this is 7-8.
Meaney versus Alamotti. Now, Meaney may have a niggling injury in his knee, but this is just their last week's team that I've chucked in here, and so we'll keep him in there for now until...
I think we'll hear a lot of these this week.
Yeah.
Every little niggle's going to be highlighted this week, but I think everybody will play. Everybody, unless you're Nelson and people take it out of your hands. Like Blairy said about Test football, unless your leg's been cut off, you're not going to run out. If you can limp out there, you're going.
Yeah.
You're doing a Cooper Cronk, you'll be out there. So, yeah, I expect Meaney to be there. I give Meaney this one.
Yeah.
7-6.
7-6. Adam?
I was going to say 8-7, but pretty similar, isn't it? 7-6.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And then last of the outside backs, Coates versus To'o.
Ooh. Jeez, I don't know, bro. This is going to be a mean battle.
Yeah.
Like, I think, like, I put Brian in the best in my team as in the number 1 winger. Again, similar to Warbrick and Taruva, like, they will be contesting for the ball and they're not going to be out contested. I give this a slight. I just love Brian To'o. I give him 8 and I give Xavier 7. I just think purely just on effort of what he can do with the ball. You know what I mean? If he gets out jumped, right, like, that's just Xavier Coates being the man, you know what I mean? Like, he can leap. So I purely on effort, Brian To'o.
Yeah, I give Coates 8, To'o 9. To'o to top, 250 metres.
Easy.
Foo. And then into the halves, Munster versus Luai.
Oh, bro. I'm going to say money 9-8.
Going 9-9.
Isn't this game
Last game.
awesome, man?
Last game for Luai. I think he tries to go out with a bang.
And then Hughes versus Cleary. Dally M versus the best player in the NRL.
Yeah, they're gonna throw. I give them both a 10, bro. Like they're gonna go at each other. They're gonna be the difference, you know what I mean? Like they're gonna make a lot of the big plays, whether it be a 40-20, whether it be a drop kick, whether it be putting someone into a hole, whether it be taking the game on themselves. I think those two will stand up from the best of them in this game, with no doubt.
Yeah.
10-10.
Yeah, you can't go past it. I spoke about Penrith playing for 80 minutes. Cleary played for 80 minutes in the last grand final. And his opponent, hands down, the best player in the comp this year. I expect him to lift the trophy on Wednesday night. It'll be a travesty if he doesn't. So, yeah, I just see these two going at it. It's going to be a classic. Two masterminds for the game.
So from last week's team list, obviously Nelson was the 8, so we'll drop Tui Kamakamitha into their number 8 prop versus Moses Leota.
Yeah, I think Moses is a 9-7 for me. I just think, like, I find it hard without Nelson, you know, the enforcer that he can be and the attention that he can attract, that Kamika can do a similar job. Like, they are workers. They're not the noted big name middle forward packs, but they'll get a job done. I just think these guys on this opposition side, the Penrith Panthers forward pack, just are that next level.
Since that Penrith Parramatta grand final, I thought that opening 20 minutes was outstanding from Penrith. They just knocked him out of the park, and I thought he was the best bloke on the park. He reminded me of Jared when Jared played one of the grand finals where he just went hell for leather, but he's fit and he can do it. It just opened my eyes to Moses. In big games, he steps up and steps up big. Scored a grand final try last year. I think he loves these moments. So I'm going to give him a 9. I'll give Tui a 7.
Well, the grand final last year, I think when he come back on, so Fish played a lot of the first half minutes.
Yep.
Moses goes off. They need to change the game alongside Cleary. Moses comes on, he's back fence all day.
Yep.
And creates that momentum, creates that intensity.
Critter fouled on the ball, and
Yes.
he gives it to Moses, and he makes that half break.
So I think, like you said, he's a big game player. And like front rows, you don't say front rows are big game players, but these guys, he changed fair bit of that momentum in that last 25 minutes for Cleary to do what he was able to do. And yeah, he's right up there, man. Like, he's going to be good.
Hookers, Grant versus Kenny.
Yeah, different type of players for me. I'm going to say Grant with a 9, Kenny with a 7.
Yeah, me too. I think he's going to have more influence on the game. He's more industrious, is Mitch Kenny.
And then other props is Josh King versus the man Fish, James Fisher-Harris.
Yeah, well, you just can't go past the middle pack, you know what I mean? Like, I think he's a 9, Fish, and King's most probably a 7. Although they're going to be workers, I just don't think they have the firepower as in them. But it doesn't change the result of what the game's going to be like, you know what I mean? Like, these guys are still going to work their butts off. It's just us giving them a rating. Like, doesn't mean that much, to be honest.
8-9. Josh King's been an unsung hero.
Yep, been good.
For the Storm. A lot of Jerome Hughes' good footy has come off the back of him.
Good quick play of the balls.
Good quick play of grafting defensively. 8-9 to Fish.
I think he went after some of the Roosters boys the other night too, bro. I thought defensively he was solid. He was getting stuck in contact. He's a big round thing, you know what I mean? He just gets the job done, bro. Like, again, you look at all their forwards, it's like, man, who are they? But you could have said that to a lot of the Melbourne Storm forwards over the years, you know what I mean? But they just know how to get a job done.
Back row, Sean Blaw versus Luke Garner.
I'm going to say Blaw. Blaw with the 8, Garner with the 7.
Yeah, me too.
And then other back row.
Oh, this is the matchup, bro.
Katoa versus Martin.
Oh, bro, this is different types of player too, I think Martin is right up there with the intensity of what he brings. I think Katoa brings a different...
They're actually the other way around, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they're in-game matched up against the opposite.
Yeah. Katoa will be up against Garner on his right-hand side.
Well, Katoa gets Ghana every day. I'm not going to say every day of the week, but fuck. What am I even talking about? Hey, we're in the grand final, bro. We're in the grand final. I just
And it'll be Bloor against Martin.
Well, yeah, they're going to have their shoulders. They're going to have to bring their overalls and their shovel and have a crack and have a dig. And I think Katoa for me will be an 8. No, they're both 9s for me. They're gonna go after it. They're gonna go after it. Both 9s.
Yep.
And then locking position, Liero versus Yo.
Oh, bro, Yo
9-7.
Yeah.
Yo.
9-7. Yeah, definitely. He's been enormous, bro.
So off the bench now, we have first up, I guess, is the utility. So last week the Panthers had Schneider as their 14th man. He came on for Cleary at the end. Not 100% sure if they'll do it the same.
I reckon they carry him, bro. I reckon they carry him just in case. Just in case.
The only reason being is that Scott Sorensen is set to return from his injury.
You look at that grand final last year, I think, was it Jerome that went off?
Yeah, well, they knew it was pretty bad going in.
Yeah. So I think they carry him for that whole purpose. I think they carry him for the whole purpose that if something happens to Nathan Cleary, that he may not get on the field, but they've got players there that can play big minutes.
Yeah.
So I think they carry him again, man, just in case, because you seen him grab his shoulder, he's going to have to take a break. Like, we're not condoning needles, but the bro's going to be needled up. Like they talk about it on TV, like he's going to be needled up at the start of the game, needled up at halftime. Like he's going to be needled up to his eyeballs. But I'll tell you what, it ain't going to stop him from playing the grand final. So I think they carry him for the whole purpose that he may.
In that case, it will be Schneider and Wishart as the utilities.
Yep. Oh, bro, Wishart for me, man. He's a 9. He's an 8-7. 8-7.
8-7.
8-7.
He covers everything.
And then Christian Welsh versus Lindsay Smith as first prop off the bench.
I'm going for Lindsay Smith here on this one.
For me, I'm going both 7s.
7 apiece.
I'll go 7-6. He's not playing a lot of minutes,
isn't he?
Christian Welsh.
Yeah, no.
7-6 to Lindsay Smith.
Might be a bit out of favour, you reckon?
Well, there's rumours that he's moving on to the Bronx, but you don't know if that's, but don't know if he's carrying anything.
Yeah, definitely.
But he's not getting a lot of minutes.
Strange, eh?
And then Tui Kamakamitha elevated up to starters for this. So Joe Chan presumably comes in as 18th man last week. He's can play a bit of middle, a bit of edge.
Yeah,
a lot
of inexperience there. I'd have to say if he's going up against Henry.
Yeah, Liam Henry.
Alex McDonald in there?
Yeah, he was 17th man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, probably a 5 and a 7.
5 for Chan.
For Chan, yeah, just because of his inexperience.
Yeah.
Same as you.
Big moment.
And then last up on the bench is Alec McDonald and Matt Eisenhuth.
And I like Alec McDonald and what he can bring off the bench. Yes, he hasn't had much of an opportunity, but I watched that game against the Cowboys and, man, he impressed me a fair bit. So I'm going him over Eisenhuth, 7-6. I think those.
I'm going 7-7.
The benchies pretty much work each other out, eh?
Okay, and with that, just give me a second. I'll calculate the total scores if you guys want to talk more about the whole game.
Nah.
Oh, okay, we'll just sit in silence.
So we're not going over.
If anybody,
anyone wants to shout us over?
That's it.
Like anyone wants to shout us?
If anybody's out there and they want a couple of blokes to come over and speak to some people.
You know what would be funny, Willie? It would be pretty cool idea. I went to the grand final last year with my son, but the amount of people out the front of the stadium, like it's hectic busy.
Yeah.
Imagine just chucking a desk up. Can you do that? And just sit there with our chairs and just having yarns.
Well, I remember going to Magic Weekend and there was a couple of blokes, they had like their podcast or their radio set up and they were talking. So I suppose you can do.
Yeah, I think
you've got to get permission, obviously, from the ground staff, but I don't think they'd be against us.
Be pretty
persuasive type of guys, aren't we?
It'll be it'll be pretty crazy how loud it would be and how many people would just be yelling in the background. It's like, brother, we're trying to do a show here, but hey, we'll get the fans on.
We could do it from a car if there's somebody wants to sponsor a car. We could sit in the car and do it from there or whatever.
The back of the van, mate. We'll try anything if anyone can get us over there, bro.
Yep.
We're happy to like do something for you guys. Like just yell out.
We probably should have asked a couple of weeks ago, but week off with.
I know it's last minute, but if you're thinking of a couple of fellas that you want to just get some content from and have a yarn with the fans and the audience just outside the stadium, we might be able to sneak in there as well. And
what was that, Dells? Contact us on Instagram.
Contact on Instagram. Anyone, hit us up. Run it straight. That's us.
So the total scores out of all of those ratings you're just given for the 1 to 17, they say 263 points towards the Storm and 269 towards the Panthers. So I guess the Panthers are going to be the premiers, mate.
Geez, she's going to be a tight game.
Yeah,
I think Willie said it's going to be a crack of a grand final. One of the best that we've seen in a long time. And like all those players are all quality players. They deserve to be in this position. They've worked their butts off to be here, and mate, they've played some quality football. The best two teams of the season, the most consistent, are there in grand final, which is a reward for everything that they've been able to achieve this year for sure. So can't wait for this one. It'll be a huge one, and please, someone get us over there.
That's all I got.
But that's us. Okay, another episode here on Run It Straight. That was our review from finals week, prelim finals week 3, our review and preview of grand final as well. We're on podcast, so hit us up wherever you get us from. Thanks for tuning in. This is Run It Straight for another week of rugby league. Cheer, my bro.